Hello, gentle viewers. This is Indian, welcoming you back to Tabletop Simulator with the #1 card game about fishing the North Atlantic off the coast of Canada, Fleet. Fleet is designed by, let me get the names, Benjamin Pinchback and Matthew D. Riddle, and is developed by Rick Sood, I think. It's S-O-U-E-D. It could be Sued. I apologize if I'm using the wrong name. It is published by Ultra Games, and this particular game is a card game in which players are going to use multi-use cards to build the biggest fishing fleet and get the most fish they can get their fins on. Get it? So, this game is based around the boat cards, and let's talk about what each boat card represents, as each one has 4 uses. Look at our friend, the Humble Cod Boat. This will get you $1 if used to pay for a cost. You can tell this by the little dollar coin in the bottom left-hand corner. In the top left-hand corner is how much it costs to launch a cod boat. If you don't launch boats, you don't get fish. In the top right-hand corner, we get how many victory points a boat is worth if you have launched it. And lastly, any card in the entire game can be turned into a captain by flipping it face down. Note that every card has slightly different abilities and powers, and how you use them is what decides whether you win or lose the game. All players get an identical hand to start the game, one of every card. So that is what we start with. The game takes place over multiple rounds with multiple turns with 5 phases. And we'll talk about each phase as we go through them. For now, you need to know when the game ends. The game will end when one of 2 things happens. 1, you can no longer refill the auction deck as licenses as much as you're meant to. Or there are no longer any fish in the fish bag. And that's it. So before we actually begin the game, we revealed the first 2 licenses. We do not use premiums the first turn. So, Mr. White won a die roll. He's going to get to go first and get the cool yellow boat. So let's talk about the auction. Licenses serve 2 main functions. First of all, they tell you what kinds of ships you can actually launch. In this case, a lobster boat or a processing vessel. Both cost the same amount to launch, and both are the same amount of victory points. But they are not the same thing, and I'll explain that why in a little bit. The second thing they all offer is they offer a powerful bonus that changes the way the game works. And in particular, the lobster lets you hire 2 captains during the captain round instead of just 1. And, more importantly, they offer a source of cards that you can draw based on how many captains you have. Pretty cool, right? Well, the processing vessel is even cooler. It lets you process the fish on all of your boats and turn them into money or extra cards. These are both quite nice. White wants to decide which one they want first. Lobster boats are kind of a constant source of cards, but they're not a source of very many cards. At most, you'll only ever get 3, and you would need to be pretty far in the game to get 3 cards. But there's certainly nothing wrong with getting 1 or 2 cards. I believe that White shall say, I bid $5 on my lobstery chum here. Hey, big lobster. Bum. Bum, bum, bum. Our friend and comrade Ms. Red may either increase the bid, note there's a minimum cost, or she can simply say it's yours and then get the processing vessel for $5. And while the lobster is nice, the processing vessel is very powerful as well. So she says, good sir, Mr. White, you may choose. Am I implying that this is Walter White, who is building a fleet of fishing boats to transport meth? I'm not saying that. So, in order to pay $5, Mr. White discards 1 tuna and a shrimp. And then claims this vessel, this license for his very own, which then will allow him to get lobsters. Glorious, glorious lobsters. Let me quickly check. I believe you refill after everyone is played. Yes. So, now, red does have another move. It's a very, very silly move, but it is a move. Red could actually opt to not buy a license. If that were the case, this would stick around for another turn. She ain't gonna do that, though. She's gonna pay 1 tuna and 1 lobster. Tuna and a shrimp. To claim the processing vessel. You draw toward points at the end of the game, by the way. Before I do anything else, I refill the licenses here. Because this will definitely affect your strategy for the rest of the round. And we have one of the most powerful cards in the game, the tuna, which lets you keep both cards you draw at the end of the turn. We also have the king crab. And this says, for every 3 crates of fish you have at the end of the game, you get an extra victory point, up to an additional 10 victory points. This is not cheap, but it's a very interesting license, and it's one that people might want to think about saving up for. Alright, so we have completed the first phase of the game, which is auctioning. Now we go ahead and launch boats. I'm going to launch a lobster boat, which will cost me $2, so long processing vessel. And then I want to captain the boat so I can draw a card, and I'm going to turn my king crab here into a lobster boat captain. Don't ask. It's very confusing. I then get to trigger the captain bonus here, and I get to draw 1 card for my very own. Ooh, tuna. $3. Next, red is up. Red is going to launch their processing vessel and pay for it with their lobster. And captain it with her king crab. She does not get any cards right away, but she'll get to do something cool in a second here. Next, we fish. Every boat with a captain gets 1 fish until they get 4 fish, and then they stop getting fish. Now there's step 4, and this is only going to be for the player with the processing vessel. I can keep my fish, which will be worth a point at the end of the game, or I can transform that fish into processed fish and use it for money or to draw a card. Because I've already got a hand of 2 cards, I don't really feel... Oh no, sorry. I am Ms. Red at this point. Ms. Scarlet, if you will. It is a victory point, but it could also be a card, which is arguably even more valuable. So I'm going to turn this into processed fish, and then I'm going to discard it to draw a card. Last but certainly not least, each one of us will draw 2 cards and keep 1 of them. I got my eye on that tuna over there, potentially. So I'm going to discard the processing vessel. Ms. Scarlet shall draw 2 cards of her own. King crabs are nice, but no one's buying this license anytime soon, if ever. So I'm gonna trash the cod. Yes. Then red takes over as first player, and a new turn begins. So she would love nothing more than to get herself some sweet tuna action. Unlike the end of a normal turn, if you get a tuna and you draw 2 cards, you keep both of them for the first license. That's extremely powerful. It's passive card generation, the best kind of generation there is. She has no incentive not to bid for it. I mean, ideally she would like more ships, though, but she doesn't have a processing vessel anyway. She can't launch a boat this turn, no matter what happens. So she says, I will bid $5 for the tuna. And we have a very difficult choice here as the white player, as Mr. White. If I bid her up to 6, which I can do, I will lose my entire hand of cards. I won't get to launch any vessels. I won't be able to get more ships. Won't be able to get more fish. Is it worth to get this powerful passive bonus to basically punt the rest of this turn? Because that's what's going to happen. I'm not going to get to do anything else this turn. I don't think so. I think I'm going to forego that. I'm going to let Red have it for $5. Red's junking her hand too, but Red also doesn't need the cards that she has. $5 spent, tuna license purchased. Pretty sexy. White could bid on the king crab, but he doesn't have enough money. So White just says, I'm good, I'm not going to bid. And we go back to Red. We do reveal that the next license is another processing vessel. This is going to be very interesting for both players. I predict Red launches no boats because she has no cards. Wow, I'm a genius. Stop. White is going to launch their lobster for the cost of $2. It's a shame, but you don't get change, so this one of these bucks or two is wasted. It's fine. And we captain the boat immediately. Remember, we get 4 captains, we start getting 2 free cards at the end of every captain phase. But I'll just settle for 1 free card. Ooh, it's a tuna. Next we have fishing. So you're going to get 1 fish, and you're going to get 2. Getting a card would be pretty important, so she's going to go ahead and process this, and then after processing, you do trading. So she's going to draw a card. Alright. She is hoping, against hope, that she can get a second processing vessel license. But I don't think she's going to get it. We'll see, but I don't think it's going to happen. Last but certainly not least, we draw cards. Red gets to keep both cards they draw. This is a huge advantage. Because now she can guarantee she's got enough to buy a second processing vessel license. Whereas White gets to buy 2, but only gets to take 2, but only gets to keep 1. They're going to keep the king crab. And White now becomes first player. New round, new auction. White would be stupid not to bid on the processing vessel. Because remember, even if you don't actually have the boat, you still get to process. And they have a lot of fish. So what is going to instantly say $5? Is Red willing to spend 6? And forego more boats. This really creates much gnashing of teeth. Because in order for her to get the most of the processing vessels she already has, she needs more boats. And she can get another processing boat out. Is that worth foregoing a more powerful processing vessel that can turn 1 processed fish into 2 cards? I don't think it is. I think she goes ahead and bids 6. And White just kind of shrugs and says, okay. So red gets her white whale by means of a processing vessel, but at a pretty steep cost. The question is, will this pay off? I think it will in the long run, but it's gonna be a while. And white now has the opportunity to bid for the king crab, and he says, I pass, because he doesn't have enough money. He really wanted that processing vessel if he could have gotten it, but he's not that bummed that he didn't. He is going to go ahead and launch a lobster boat. Discarding the tuna. But he gets his free captain card, but he won't get any more than that. Another tuna. Well, he's getting really lucky in terms of their money. And red has no cards, so they can't launch any ships. Now we fish. 1, 2, 3. Scarlet, immediately here, she's going to turn this fish into 2 more cards. Because that's what she got it for. And Mr. White shall draw 2 cards and keep 1. I guess we'll keep the processing vessel. The tuna is 2 cards to keep. This is a pretty sweet hand. This is a good hand for her to really make a name for herself. We also forgot to put out another fishing. It's another processing vessel. Are you kidding me? Man. It's so good, right? Drawing 3 cards for 1 fish. It's too good. But you'd be playing both tunas for it. You need to get more fish out there. That's going to be the best season. So she's actually not going to take part in the auction. Is Miss Scarlet? Oh, no, wait. I didn't change people, did I? No, yes, I did. I did. Because he bid first on the processing vessel. She has bid more. So she says, I don't want anything. And white could buy the processing vessel. And I think white will. Because we're getting to the point where these are going to be full. And it's going to be more valuable to do that. So yeah. Buying a processing vessel license. There's only 4 of each kind of license. So those will get discarded. Red is already passed. So we've revealed the next one. And it is a shrimp license. Which offers a permanent discount for the rest of the game. Very spicy. But red can't bid on it now. Red is going to launch, finally. She's going to launch a tuna. Pay a cod. And then flip on over that cod to captain it. White has no cards. White can't do anything. Next, we... Oh, nope, nope, nope. White does get to draw 1 card for the captain bonus. But it's at the end of the phase, so they can't use this card, for instance, to captain that extra boat. So red gets the fish. And white gets to fish. Red wants to keep this card flow going. It's given her pretty impressive flexibility. So she is going to go ahead and process 1 fish, which she will then trade for 2 cards. White definitely wants to do something with one of his fish, so he's going to go ahead and process this fish. Would he want a card or $1 next turn or a future turn? I think he'd rather keep the money for now. Yeah, that's what he's going to do. No, that's dumb. Because that's $1, whereas drawing a card is at least $1 and might be more. And it was $3, so that was a really smart idea. Red gets to unleash the power of Tuna to keep 2 cards, getting a pretty respectable hand there. And white gets 2, but has to discard 1. We're going to get rid of the card. Oh my god. I'm not apologizing. Back to the auction phase. That shrimp would look awfully tasty, and it would make it a lot easier for them to launch ships. And with the cards in their hand, they can definitely bid up the cost of it to make sure that they win it. So I think that's what white's going to do. White needs a game changer, and that would be a game changer. So white says, I would like, dear sir, dear madam, sorry, we've established that red is a Ms. I would like to bid $4 for this shrimping license. But what is salivating at the being to chuck out tunas for free? Then again, tunas are probably more valuable as money anyway. The big problem for... that's gross. Like, these cards aren't wasted. They're going to get to use them for something at some point. But bidding up on the shrimp is not a terrible idea. Because it's just a good card, even if you don't have any shrimp to launch. So she will, in fact, bid 5. And then we go back to red. And red says, I bid 8. Red is not fucking around here. Or are they? No, red's going to bid 6. Yeah. Because if he loses the auction, he doesn't care. But if he wins it, he'd still get his processing vessel, which you could then launch later on. Because you never know when there might be another processing vessel. Plus, he can also just, like, turn a processing vessel into a captain, and that'll be helpful too. So, yeah, he bid 6, and she thinks long and hard. And she thinks to herself, these cards are of very little use to me this turn. I bid $7. It means she won't get to launch a tuna this turn. But she can hang on to it, launch it a different turn. No problem. So, 7, white pulls out, and she gets herself the lovely shrimp license for $7. She can discard all of her lobsters and her cod. The Wrath of Cod. Yellow elects not to... Yellow could not afford the King Crab, but it's getting closer. So you reveal this, and then this will be up next turn. White now gets to put out a ship. It's a bit wasteful, but we'll do it. We're going to turn this tuna to pay for the processing vessel. I'm going to go ahead and captain the lobster ship. We are going to not fish yet because we're not at that part, because red could launch if she so chose. Now she can launch the tuna for free because the shrimp gives her a $1 launch bonus. There's no reason not to do it. She launches the tuna. I mean, I guess she could have kept it to get some money later on, but whatever. Now we fish. 1, 2, 3. And then 1, 2. White gets to process first. White is going to turn... Oh, this fish is going to turn into cards. This one is just going to be processed for later use. And that is going to be 1 card for white. It's a lobster. That's not the most useful thing, but it's also not unuseful. Also, I forgot again, white did not get their bonus card from their lobster pal. 1 more ship, and then they'll start getting 2 cards. So that's pretty important to stop forgetting that. She is going to process 1 fish for 2 cards. That is done. Ugh, cod, but whatever. We then switch over to white for drawing cards. Mr. White's going to draw 2 and keep 1. These are all fine. They're all equally fine in his eyes, so he's going to discard the processing vessel. And then red gets to draw and keep 2. You get a shrimp out there for free. Nice. It is now red's turn to start first, and a very important thing is about to happen. If red can get another tuna, she's going to be in much better shape because she's going to get even more cards. The point of a card game is to play cards, and there's no hand limit, so get all the cards. And because of the shrimp, it'll only cost her 4. So she will happily open the bidding. Will she happily open the bidding? She will happily open the bidding at $1. Or $5. The power of getting to keep a second card is pretty strong. But I don't think it's worth passing up a permanent 2 cards every turn. So he will actually let her have it for the minimum. So she turns shrimp and lobster, because it's only going to cost her 4, even though she picked 5. And now she's going to draw 3. And she has to discard 1, but it can be any card in her hand. It doesn't have to be the one she just drew. So the tuna card also changes that a bit. White is going to make a big show about thinking about the king crab. He's, of course, going to say no. Here comes our pal, the cod, again. I say again. You haven't seen this game. The cod's bonus is you can launch 2 ships a turn. And every time you launch a boat, as long as you launch at least 1 boat, you draw a card. It doesn't matter if you launch 2 boats, you still only get 1 card. But that's a pretty good one for next turn. So now red may launch, but red has nothing to launch. But red does have a captain, so she will cod it up to get more fish. Oh. We're going to launch the lobster for $2 dues. And I'm going to turn another lobster into a captain. Now because I have 4 captains, I get 2 cards for free of my very own. Next, red gets to fish. 1, 2, 3. Then white gets to fish. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then white gets to process. White will happily process 1 fish for 2 more cards. Or red will. I'm apparently forgetting my colors. White will process 1 fish for 1 card and a second fish into money. Red then gets to draw 3 cards, and she gets to discard any card she wants. So she's actually going to discard the king crab, because it's not a very good card. And white is going to draw 2 cards, and he has to discard 1 of them. 1 of the 2 that he drew. Cod is now up for fishing if he wishes. But it's only $1. I think he's gonna pass. We then boop 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 doop. White, do you wish to bid on the cod? I don't think he does. I think white has a better idea. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He's got enough money to bid on the king crab if he wants. Keep in mind, the king crab is worth 5 points. You can play king crabs instead of just instantly discarding them, but each one is worth 3 points. And for every 3 fish they have at the end of the game, they get a bonus victory point. I think it's actually a really tempting offer. Because red can't keep up with that. Red only has $9. Which is technically enough but only enough for her to initiate the bidding on it. Not enough to win. And let's be honest, she's probably going to go for the cod so she can start pumping out ships. So that she can catch up with red. But in any case, Mr. White is actually going to go ahead and say, I'm going to go ahead and bid $10 for the king crab. Red says, yours. So he's pretty happy about that. He's going to discard his entire hand. Plus his 2 fishy buddies. And he now has his very own king crab license. Oh, for the first time since the first turn, she's going to happily say, I will pay $3 for a cod license. For the Wrath of Cod. And she's going to deliberately pay more by discarding both processing vessels because she can launch the cod for free. That's a pretty spicy card. We now reach the end of the auction phase. We now have the Fisherman's Pub. It's what it is on the tin. $10, 10 points. And another shrimp license. So that's going to make an interesting turn next time around. White cannot launch any ships because they don't have any cards. So red can launch ships. She can launch 2, in fact. So she will. She's going to launch 1 cod and 1 shrimp. And turn the shrimp into a dude. A captain. Red cannot gain, or white cannot gain any... Oh, sorry, white still would have gained 2 cards. Because of his captain bonus from the lobster. Next, white fishes. Then red fishes. I guess I could have just stayed on red or on white because it doesn't really matter what color is up. White is going to process 2 fish, one of whom he will turn into a card. It's pretty good. Red shall also process 1 fish to get 2 cards. Last but not least, white is going to draw 2 cards and keep 1. Processing vessel gets discarded. And she draws 3 and can discard 1. We'll discard the lobster. That's a very shrimpy hand. First player comes over here. Red wants that shrimp license quite badly. So she's going to open the bidding at 4. But white also would like that same shrimp license because it would reduce his costs, and he could start playing shrimp of his own. So he bids 5. Red bids 6. White bids 7. And red really has an important choice to make here. If she agrees to 8, she might win, but she'll lose her entire hand. And she is well behind in launching ships. So I think she's actually going to go ahead and say, you can have it for 7. So he is going to go ahead and play all of his cards. Was it worth it? Yes, in my opinion. And then she cannot afford the Fisherman's Pub, so she kind of just ignores it. Another COD license will be great next turn. Now she may launch ships. She shall. She shall launch a pair of shrimp boats. And we can only captain one of them, alas. But I do get to draw a card for even more shrimp action. Red has, or White has, Mr. White has no cards, but he gets to draw 2. That's not terrible. Back to red, we go ahead and do our fishing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then over here, 1, 2, 3, 4. White gets to process first, up to 1 per boat. She's only going to process 1 to get the 2 cards. And white is going to process 3. One of which will turn into a card. Red now gets to draw her 3 and discard 1. So long, King Crab. I just can't be bothered. White draws 2. He actually might want to keep the King Crab here. Because that's 3 points. That's nothing to sneeze at. Then White now becomes first player. Would White like a cod? So here's the thing. He could very easily outbid Red for the white because of his processed fish. But she also has 6 cards to his 4. So his other option is to start the bidding on the Fisherman's Pub, which is 10 points. Like, 10 points is 10 points. It's not something to be ignoring. The other thing you could do, though, is he could just bid her up on the cod and then grab the Fisherman's Pub. Because there's really not a downside to making her pay more for the cod unless she decides she doesn't want it. Which she might. That's always the risk, right? Every time you bid on something, you risk getting stuck with it. But he's at least going to open up the bidding for it. He wants to at least make her pay a little bit more for it. So he says $4 for the cod. Without hesitation, she says 5. He has gotten her to pay $1 more minus the cost of the shrimp, so whatever. Is he willing to say 6 and hoping she goes to 7? Or does he not take that risk and just use it on the fisherman's pub? I think he's just going to buy the fisherman's pub. So he says, that's fine. You can have it for 5. And she's instantly suspicious, but she's also not going to question it. She's going to chuck in 3 shrimp. And get herself the bonus card. So now when she launches the ship, she gets to draw 2 cards instead of 1. So she's getting an even more powerful card engine. And then White says, I put 10 on the fisherman's pub. And he discards his entire hand of 7. Putting them on top of the deck for some reason. Plus his 3 fish on the processing vessel. And that 10 points could very well be the difference between winning or losing. Regardless, we flip out 2 new licenses. It's another shrimp license and another cod. Okay. Insane. White doesn't have any cards, but still gets to draw 2 because of his lobster license. No, he can't actually afford the king crab. He could do the shrimp, though. But I think he'd rather keep the king crab so we can actually launch it later. She gets to launch. She could launch 2 if she so desired, but she only has... No, she could launch the processing vessel. She's just going to launch the shrimp boat, though. So she can get her 2 cards. Technically, that comes at the end. So she's just going to go ahead and turn this lobster into a captain. Back to White. White is going to do some fishing. 2, 3, 4. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh! So that's the end of the game. That snuck up on me. So he finished that phase, which is the fishing phase. So she still gets credit, even though we ran out of fish. So she needs 1 more fish. I'm just going to clone it. But the game is still over, but that way she gets her... What the heck? Rewind, please. Oh my god, really? Can I rewind again, please? No, that's just gonna keep happening. Cool story, bro. It's fine. So yeah, I just need to grab a fish and clone it. Why are you making 2 of them, though? Oh, you're not. You're just being weird. Okay. Alright, so the game is now concluded. So now it's time to go ahead and grab ourselves a calculator so we can start calculating the end game points. I think White won, but it's going to be awfully damn close. It's going to be awfully darn close. I don't want a background. Components, tools, and we're going to do a calculator. I'm then going to do text, and I'm going to type here. So we're going to put Reds score, and then I'm going to come all the way over here. Oh, no. I have to make a new box. That's fine. I'll do that. And I'm gonna grab... Nope. No, don't do that. Just that one. And we're going to type White's score. Okay. So, you score points for every boat you've launched, every fish cube you have, and every license, plus any king crab bonuses. So let's start in order, and let's start with licenses. We have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and 6 is 26, and 6 more is 32. We then count up the boats. We have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Plus the total number of fish cubes she had, and we're just going to have to move cards out of the way. It doesn't matter what's associated with what. I just need the raw totals. So we have 3, 6, 10, 13, 15, 18. $60 points for Team Red. Pretty respectable. I don't think it's going to be enough, but we'll see. Now we come over to White. And White is going to start by counting up his licenses. So we get 10, 14, 19, 22, 25. We then count up his boats. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We're then going to count up all of his fish cubes. Which is 16. Plus his king crab bonus, which gives an additional bonus point for every 3 cubes he had. So with 16 total cubes, that's going to earn him 5 more points. Which still leaves him short. So Red has 1, as White only had White's score 56. So at the end of the day, although the Fisherman's Pub helped a lot and the game would have been close without it, he wasn't getting enough licenses and he wasn't putting out enough fish. And so that is why Red was victorious. A very close game though. Very, very close. And that is going to do it for Fleet. Please join me next week for a very, very different kind of game. Australia with a Z by Martin Wallace will be next week. But until then, this has been Avindian. Thank you for watching, and I bid you good day. I could even White did that. That was very thematic.